starting to record. And we should be live momentarily.
Hello, hello, hello. Coming live, coming live. Who is there? I'm looking for us. Do you see us on the
Mars 1 to Earth, Mars 1 to Earth. Elon, are you there?
This is Elon Musk. Yes, this is me.
Hi, me.
Don't ask any questions.
And I will tell you no lies.
Yes, this is most appropriate.
Oh, apparently we have two of us out going. Let's see. There's Ray. Ray's in the house. Okay, heads to salutations and greetings. Buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
Mi scusi, this is not where I parked my car.
Uh-oh, here we go.
Michelle M is here. Carolina Dreams, Smoking Acres. Good to see everybody. Namaste.
Namaste, everyone. This is fun. This is going to be a fun one, you guys. Hope you stick around. It's going to be fun. And intermittently, I do with a little cleansing and I do a little tuning fork just to keep the energy like clear for us all. I think it's helpful.
Absolutely. Ginger Ale Brit. Wonderful person that we love in Oneness 13 and Ellie.
Hello, you guys. Wonderful to see everyone. David Smith. Cheers. Cheers to you, Sir David Smith.
Yes. Lots of stuff has been coming through actually the last, I'd say since the election. Since the election, a lot of things have been coming through. So we want to start sharing some of it. KK in the house.
KK's in the house. Here we go.
Oh, let's see. Okay, there we are. Now I see us live. Hold this for me.
Okay, cool. Yes, KK's in the house. The party has started. There's that rotten, sassy Susie. We all know to watch out for her. She's always causing trouble. Yeah, this is going to be a fun one because we have... when you get channeled information, it usually comes fragmented, and we are going to try to pull together what we've been getting lately and just sort of unfragment it and just throw it out there and see what you guys feel about it. So this should be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. This is some of my favorite stuff, really. This is by far some of the stuff that I love to go into the most. DJ, yes, we're alive. Yes, it's alive.
How come DJ doesn't have a wrench?
I don't know. I guess we got to give DJ a wrench. Yeah. Oh, Michelle says, love you too. We love you all too. And yeah, we keep plugging away at. Some days it's easier than others. Some topics are way easier than others. This to me is easy. I love this. There's nothing that is more fun. As they have us on 22 concurrent viewers, 24, I guess they're catching up. It says the bit rate is lower than the recommended bit rate. The settings are exactly the same as last time. Okay, it shows the status is good. Good connection. Okay.
Ask them.
So, Sin Havoc 5150. I wonder if he's a Van Halen fan, by the way.
I don't know if Sin Havoc 5150 is a Van Halen person or not. Hi, Viola. I was going to say, Hiola. Hello, Viola. Hi, you guys. Count me. You are counted. Everyone in here is so extremely important. It's a very blessed day. We have fun information. Even getting information in on Trump, which is very, very curious too, in and of itself. But we're moving into a new age, and there's going to be a lot of change. And a lot of people, they're really up in the air about what's going on and what's happening. And I think, like I said, we're so conditioned to look at things from just a 3D perspective and only realize that everything in the 3D, that's all we have, but there's so much more out there. So internally bringing stuff in and taking responsibility for what we put into our bodies, not just food wise, but news wise, that really has a big effect on your psyche.
Yes, absolutely. And so I was watching this. What do we see here? It says it's Josephine Earp, the wife of the legendary lawman Wyatt Earp. You know, that famous OK Corral shootout and everything. This right here is Immortal Chronicles. So this popped up in the feed, and we were just poking through and looking at it and, feeling like, and I'm sure it's been said before, so much of this just feels like it's completely staged. These old Western photos, there's just something that, I don't know, it just doesn't feel fluid. It feels staged.
That feels
I mean, this feels as staged can be, to me anyway.
Well, it does. It feels like a movie scene, these two.
Yeah, it feels like they're trying to tell us a history. Like they want to paint something. They want to paint a picture of the past that will be useful for those that come later.
They do, and look at the pyramid-looking thing behind. Right behind the. To me, that looks like a pyramid overgrown with trees and all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much, I think, that doesn't meet the eye. So there's a lot of channels out there like this. 10,000 subscribers, not a big channel, but sharing fun stuff. And the more we look and analyze at the past, I think the more questions we have. Seattle, Washington, the regrade post-mud flood. Mud flood could be in the title of this as well, because is that the mechanism or one of the mechanisms that wipes things away, washes things away? I think we're watching that right now, literally happening as we speak about it. These global cataclysmic events, and maybe we're not even being accurate when we say global, because again, what we've gotten is that the earth is much bigger than we're told. We're actually in a quarantined portion of Earth, which is far larger than what we are told, the information that we're given. One of the reasons why the flat earthers is a real growing society of sorts is because people have noticed things like flight paths that don't make sense. Why are the flight paths the way they are? Well, they make sense if you look at it from a flat earth map, because the continents are really not exactly the right distance. I remember seeing years ago that the positioning of Maine and the proportion of Maine is different in ancient, older maps than it is now. And actually, I mean, if you look at Maine in relation to going across to the other side where Washington and Oregon are, it's in a different position. And there's a lot of things that slowly change over time. They really do constantly rewrite everything. And yet here we have a video. This is of 47 to be discussing World's Fairs and bringing them back like the ones in the late 1800s. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh, could there be a bigger red flag? I mean, seriously. And that's only hitting me now as I'm saying this. Here we go with the red flag World's Fairs, because they're erasing our history again, and they're going to rewrite it again. And we are probably going to get ostracized because I'm going down that route, as we only have 57 people at the moment. I know we popped up on everybody, but typically a lot more people come through than that. But they obviously don't want this really being talked about it. the fact that he wants to bring back the World's Fairs. What would a modern day World's Fair look like? Seeing this plan come to fruition in 3 years will be very exciting to see. Oh, it's interesting, all right. Oh, man. The timeline's right there in front of us. 2025 is a huge year. And now I'm going down that route I wasn't intending on going down. But thinking about what the Polish psychic said, that the world will be a very, very different place in 2028, like halfway through 2028. Yeah, is it going to be so different? We need a World's Fair to tell us what our history is again?
We're going to have to see. It was really interesting the night. It was election night. And when I went to lay down, I started getting all kinds of visions. I mean, it was just visions to high heaven. And actually, our good old Mr. T here was involved, and I kept seeing. Now, I think his energies are split. I don't think he's all good, and I don't think he's all bad. He's just the one who's taking position right now and guiding a certain ship a certain way. But it's through him. This information is being done through him. So what I kept seeing was this lion with wings, and a lot of information about Tartaria started coming up. And the different types of healing modalities that Tartaria has had to it, the bells, the buildings, the vibrations, a place where it was more of a 5D type nature, where people were at their best. They were very happy. They were influenced in a positive way. They wanted things to be in balance because there wasn't the trauma that we have down here on 3D. It was functioning with many people when Tartaria was full. It was functioning with beings that were all different sizes, and they were healed. They were not traumatized. So I thought that was really interesting why that came through. As soon as my head hit the pillow, I mean, just visions started popping up left and right about Tartaria. So I do think we are headed back toward a better place, but we still have a lot to go through. There's still going to be bumps in the road, and we really can't ignore that. And what I do find kind of sad that's happened through the election is so many people are angry and there's families being split up because of political differences. And I really hate to see that. We take control of our own lives, and we should take responsibility for our own lives and not give our power to that external influence, and not allow an external influence to separate us, because that's what they've always done. And when you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you've got.
One of the things that I found was fascinating is what we were getting was things are not necessarily totally sequential as far as these different what would you use for them? Societies. They're not really necessarily empires. They're not traditionally even really countries. I'm not sure what we should use in order to distinguish what exactly. Actually, in retrospect, they're very, very different. If we are talking Mu, it is very, very different than Atlantis. Lemuria is another distinct entity itself as well. Tartaria as well. These are all different regions at different times, inhabited by slightly different groups of beings. I think a lot of it that we can't understand really stems from the fact that what you had on planet Earth was a refugee planet situation. There were beings coming here from many different planets, and they were being seeded by many different, should we say, galactic star systems. And that's where these different states, countries, nations, societies, civilizations, I guess the best word is just simply civilization, that's where they came from. I mean, again, these are beings coming from the stars, different beings. Yet, yeah, we're all basically humanoid, but we're all not the exact same people. Yet, by this time in space, in our space-time continuum, we are all very much mutts. We are all very, very mixed. And if we really understood just how mixed we are with so many different galactic heritages out there, I think would be mind-blowing for most people to understand.
I think so too. I'm just, usually at nighttime when I go to bed, if there's going to be visions, it's about 10 to 15 minutes in after I close my eyes. But as soon as my head hit the pillow, these other visions that I started to get, it was strange. It was like the cat people, the cat people. But there was all kinds of different people that came in, and I saw war, and I saw like the Draco coming after the cat people. It was I don't know. I was just seeing a very, very difficult, very rough timeline when it comes to coming down into this dark Kali Yuga, because it was quite a descent, and I think I was viewing that time of war, and I was viewing the descent. So then I started getting the other visions of Tartaria, and then the cat with the wings. So I know we're on the ascension path, but I do feel like we're going to have some really, really tough times to get there. But these buildings, look at these buildings. I mean, we don't have the ability to make these today. I don't see how so many of them, how humans could have made them. And in the time that they were made, the population was not up there enough to be able to put these together. We just didn't have the manpower with the horse and buggies and, shovels and axes. It's just not feasible. Yet they put it in our history books as if it was. And let's not forget about all the so-called fires, the fires that happened that destroyed so much of everything that was good, and everything that kept us in a 5D state of mind. And we can bring in the 5D while we are here on the 3D, but it's a mixed bag right now. So many people are still traumatized way down there, and not to mention they've done a lot of damage to people to keep them traumatized and keep them not functioning at their best, or not able to for various reasons. Trauma in and of itself, certain types of abuse, maybe you were not beaten at home as a child, but let's say you were neglected, and that carries a very heavy trauma to it, and it carries a certain type of PTSD. So we're having to heal through that right now and help each other on the way up. But it's going to take an enormous amount of understanding on everybody's part.
History is a lie, absolutely. It's just the same thing when you break down the word belief. What's at the heart of belief? It's lies. That's what is at the heart of it. And again, there's retelling of stories by the control system in a way that suits it. And you could tell, and it really is hitting me very strongly just since we've been doing this. Lindsay, thank you so much again for all your support.
Oh, thank you, Lindsay. She says, thank you for all your dedication in the war for truth. Thank you, Lindsay. And that definitely helps us, because it's very much a war, and it's hard to get this information out there. And because we don't support the 4 pillars, we support people finding out who they are for themselves. It's not easy. So thank you so much. And all the thumbs up, and everybody in the chat. Thank you for keeping us here.
Yeah, because they're doing everything they can always, because it is a war on truth. It truly, truly is. What I want to get across is, again, this is an obvious time of another retelling of what's happening. Another thing that popped out, which, it makes me a little bit nervous to bring this up, but in case you missed it, we were talking about 47, And this was actually what I was going to do a video on, then decided to go this route because I wanted to go a little lighter. But, it ties in. It ties in again. The fact that he is talking about creating 10 new cities. And I just, this is again, we're living the past. This is the past that we're living. We're doing it over again. We talked about good cop, bad cop. This still also could change at a moment's notice, as I do think that the system is really going by what AI says is going to be the most successful.
Yeah, I do believe AI is there's still a charge to AI, which is definitely concerning. And I don't think that all technology is bad by any means, but I don't like the EMFs. I don't feel that the EMFs are necessary. I think we can have all the things and we can do what we're doing right now without all the EMF. I strongly believe it's there. But I do believe we're also going to go through this and we're going to transform to a much higher vibration where we will have all the things. But it's about walking through the mud right now. And it's about all of us, leaning together. And thank you for all the positive comments in the chat. It really brings it up, you guys. It really helps. And actually with these chats, with all the positivity and energy going into it, it creates a bit of a healing for everybody. So thank you for the positive notes. It really, really helps. But yeah, I mean, we're kind of all in this together and it's not easy. Things could be different, but they're not. So we have to kind of look at things the way we are and the way they are and take responsibility for that and help each other through. Because one thing they want to do, they want to create so much fracture that people are so angry that other people would say, I can't believe you even think that way. And therefore cut off the relationship, cut off that family member, cut off that best friend, or somebody wants to do a thing and they know it's wrong. So they cut off all their friends so they can do the thing when they know it's wrong and they're not reaching out for help. We have a lot of that going on right now. And I think the first step is to recognize it, because as soon as you can see it, then you can actually start to do something about it.
Okay, so Jay Franklin says the cat people are coming back. And somebody else earlier, I think it was Sin Havoc, was saying Lyrans. Lyran's star system, we have the cat beings, we also have humanoid beings. One thing to understand too, if you could see what it looks like on some of these planets, you would see there's many, many different species cohabitating together. I know sometimes we say things that most people would have a hard time believing or accepting. One thing I've noticed right now is that it seems like things are accelerating as far as the ability to leave the body at will, astral projecting, and also have contact with beings from the other densities. This is why they're going to have to do a controlled, and they are in the process of doing controlled disclosure, simply because too many of us are going to be having encounters and understanding the bigger picture. And like with Cindy and I, we've seen some unusual beings. We really have seen some unusual beings. I remember that little guy out in the desert that we both saw with our third eye. He was passing us. We were at that time staying across from Nellis Air Force Base, and he looked at us because what's he seeing? He's seeing two humans with activated light bodies, which most people, even if you just went back 5 years, didn't have activated light bodies. Those with activated light bodies are still in the minority, but it's increasing, and more lights are popping on all across the world right now. And this means you're going to be able to see things that were hidden from you. And as you detox, as you activate your pineal gland, you'll also be able to communicate with them. And there's a big percentage, much bigger than most people imagine, that can and do. We had a wonderful session on Friday with one of our beloved family members, first time. And, she's an exceptional person. And she has interactions with what we could call ETs on a regular basis. Many people do. This is something that's very hard for the average person that has a calcified pineal gland and that has had their ability to perceive, basically dampened, because that's what they've done in this world, is they've dampened our ability to communicate with beings that are just outside the visible spectrum. Well, many people, I can't venture to guess, but I bet you it's at least 10% of the population at this point in time. I don't know if Cindy has a feeling, but I would say, I would bet 10% of the population can and does on a regular basis, either not completely knowing or knowing what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. I know it's a bit of a mixed bag out there still, but I mean, when it comes to activation, here's the thing: we can get activated, but if you don't do anything with it, it'll just go back to dormant. So we have to be more active in our practice and doing what we're doing, and do all the things, the cleansing, the meditation, whatever your spiritual belief system is, really pushing into that to create a very strong activation, which gives you a lot of abilities to really create out there. And that makes us co-creators. And as co-creators, if we don't like what we have, and so many are not happy with it, as co-creators, if we're all really strong, guess what? We get to change that. Then now we understand the ball's in our court.
Okay, so let me share this with you. He plans to take a quantum leap in technology and land development, build 10 new cities, flying cars. The future is going to be amazing. 1/3 of U.S. landmass is owned by the federal government. And when you say federal government, really, we're talking again. Ultimately, that's a banking cabal, and it's private banks. It's not the people. And just like when we look to Crown land, 90% of Canada, 90% New Zealand, Australia is Crown land. And again, that's supposed to be the people, but it's not the people when you get down to it. All that needs to really, really change. But anyways, as one half of 1% of that land, we should hold a contest to charter up to build 10 new cities, freedom cities. So to terms like Patriot Act, how patriotic was it to, eavesdrop on everybody and put all that technology in place? Again, everything is kind of upside down in the terms they use. Freedom cities sounds very much, I think there's other words that you guys can insert, go right ahead and tweet that out, or, blurb that out. Yeah, freedom cities. We will lead the way in air and mobility to develop vertical takeoff and landing vehicles for families. Wow, we're going Jetsons, finally, right? This is what so many people have been waiting for. It's going to bring a lot of excitement in. But, we're treading carefully because we do not trust any single politician that exists out there. But we are still hopeful, and we're watching very, very carefully. Forgotten communities will be hives of industry producing goods no longer imported from China. Major initiative lowering cost of living, focusing on lowering the cost of a new car and building beautiful single-family homes. Well, yeah, all that sounds great. And launch a baby boom. Cabbage Patch Kids again, again, storks coming, maybe, incubators at the World's Fair. It sounds like we're doing all that over again.
It does sound suspiciously familiar, and I know the information as far as our history. It's not just vanished. It's not gone. I know one place that carries our history is in that big building that starts with a V. I know our history is under there, but it's in other temples too. I mean, as far as how did we really get here? Where did mankind come from? What cycle are we on? Right now, we have the ability to channel information, but I know that it's written somewhere, all the details and all the things. And when it comes to healing our human bodies, you bet that they can have certain machines that vibrate at a rate that can help the human body heal. And this is what so many of the buildings from Tartaria were doing. They were helping humans hold that vibration of a body, and they were living a very, 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 very long time until the descent into the Dark Ages. And we can get back there. And the exciting thing is we are getting back there. Now, I know some people have brought up med beds, but and I'm sure that they work. The problem is I haven't heard any one common person still have access to it. All I see is people on videos saying that they had access to it. So that doesn't really tell me anything. I would have to actually know someone and speak to someone who saw somebody I trust to know that they're out there. I've just heard a lot about them. Do I think they exist? Yes, absolutely. And they can heal the whole human body, but they don't want that for us right now. And that's just not fair.
I mean, so much could just be healed with high levels of oxygen and ozone, just in alkalinity too, and then also just accelerating the detoxing effect. It's really not that complicated when you really look at things. Nature takes care of things very, very simply. When he says get rid of ugly buildings, right? Modernization, beautification campaign, it almost sounds like you want to rebuild Tartaria and eliminate the dark Gotham, so to speak, in so many ways. As most of the buildings built nowadays feel very sterile. They don't have that attention to detail that we saw with Tartaria. So, what do we see when we look at him? Honestly, he doesn't feel dark like a lot of them. Like when we look at Gil Bates, when we look at the Froggy over at PF Iser, when we look at Ursula even, at the EU, and the Draco that are around him are in the distance. What does that really mean? When you look to a lot of sources say that he's a wild card. There's a lot that hit me about Baron, honestly, and we'll do a video on that because I've gotten so much info on Baron. I almost feel that him is it's just he's a necessary antecedent, and that really the story is really Baron is really the story. I think other people have picked up on that too. So, it's fascinating. We are certainly living in fascinating times. We do not want to see any sort of WW #3 happening, and I hope that can be avoided. At the same time, we know that this is something that almost feels unavoidable, but again, timelines are never set in stone. They're never set in stone. When we look to what was the technology of Tartaria, and almost everybody that's heard of Tartaria probably will say, well, hey, they pulled the power straight out of the ether. That's what all those towers and spires were for.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's very much a whole healing center. It's like making the world a place to just go heal when you walk from one building to the next. And yes, very much Earth is very much the healing center, her if she's in her purest form. But that tells you why they toxify everything, including the air, including the water, because they know that Earth can heal. They know that sound and frequency and what we expose ourselves to, what we watch, what we bring into our bodies, all of that makes a difference on how we feel. And we're really kind of in a pretty bad spot right now, but we're all starting to pull through.
So what is Elon? Elon is fascinating. Again, he's the cornerstone of this time period right here. And he's Batman, is he not? I mean, he's actually dressed up as Batman. He's also dressed up as quote unquote Satan. And again, it's all part of this big drama, this big play that we see playing on right now. I do think, again, Cindy has gotten that we have about 11 to 15 years. How long ago was it? That was within the last year you got that. Yeah, so maybe 10 to 14 years, but in that rough range, that's what we still have. Let's see if we get this.
The history of the world is...
We have a long way to go in this turning of the tide, because what is going to happen ultimately is that this is a different time, because we're heading towards true freedom, because we're out of the Kali Yuga. But it doesn't mean necessarily we're going straight into a golden age. I do think, again, we have the opportunity to go up into what we would call 5D, or a heavenly realm, at the end of this life. And when the flash does come, that big solar flash, I think all those that are rising in frequency will find themselves as there are some nuggets hidden in the BIBLE, and because, again, they have to give you truth admixed with deception and lies. Again, at the cornerstone, at the root, at the heart of belief is, again, lie, L-I-E. It's right there in the middle. Lie. Be the lie. And what's the lie? Well, again, the lie is everything that's in the mainstream. It's a distortion is what it really, really is. It's a distortion. And there's a lot of things, again, they would portray as, well, that's just a mystery. It's for God to know, and we can't figure that out. But again, it's the system that's given us that inclination to be the lie that they portray. It's done by the system. So again, it's sorting the truth, which is very, very easy when you have an activated light body and a functioning pineal gland. But still, we can still have deception and distortion in which we might not see 100% clarity all the time.
No, I mean, when I look at Tartaria, I can see a lot of these systems, like all the systems, all of what we would call religious systems, belief systems, all of them get along. There's not this tendency toward one disliking the other. There's a mutual respect for all of them. And there's so many different ways to believe, because we are so very, very different. And for myself personally, I believe in a little bit of everything, and I've created my own little world in which I function in, and it's my spiritual practice, and it's mine, and no one can take it away from me. And I've become very non-apologetic for it too. Before I just like, oh gosh, you really shouldn't be doing these things. But, when it comes to the churches and the communities, there's some really beautiful people out there. They are absolutely wonderful and beautiful in every way, and they will do so much for so many. And it's just, in the past, for me, not wanting to go because I have different belief systems, I don't think that I would do that. I think I would go back to church now and just be very unapologetic about my beliefs. Maybe bring my crystals, maybe bring my stuff and just say, hey, here I am. And this is me, and this is what I like, show me what you like, like little kids. We're all like little children in here with all of our little trinkets and toys that we have found and we have discovered. And ultimately, aren't we all just children kind of, walking each other home, just kind of walking each other home and talking about this teacher and this grade and that grade, and telling each other what we learned. We're all in this together. It's the man-made systems that keep us apart, and we have to look at that and look at ourselves too. Really, looking at yourself is the most important part.
Absolutely. More and more people are picking up on things. There's been pyramids uncovered down in Antarctica. There's some maps that show land masses up at the North Pole. And of course, that big one there, Grand Tartary. What exactly was it? Was it just, Tartary that we're told of in the history books. There's a lot that has been erased from our history. Lemuria. And now, Lemuria and Mu, they get combined into one, but they are different entities in at least my perception. Now I'll ask Cindy again her perception. But here it says Lemuria, the divine mother civilization, ancient civilization which once existed on Earth before and during the time of Atlantis, sometimes referred to as Mu or motherland. I view Lemuria as a later one, Mu as the original. And yeah, motherland is a good term, so to speak. The mother of all civilizations. It was definitely way more advanced than the planet, at least our section of the planet is at this point in time. This was 5D, and it says a matriarchal culture instead of patriarchal. Connections to the cosmos, much more sophisticated. Absolutely. And so, a lot of times there's this blending of energies, things that get to be confusing. Here you see a very simple, old-looking map here. Atlantis taking up the middle of the northern Atlantic, Mu taking up a big chunk of the Pacific. And over here, you see another one showing Hawaii as just part of an enormous continent of Mu. And, we wonder how could you have people genetically related from South America, their closest relatives are literally over in Fiji? Well, again, was there a huge island sitting there? Was there? How big was it? This map makes it look enormous. Was it really that big? There are things on the bottom. I mean, you could go into Google Earth and look. I don't want to crash our live here, but there are remnants and artifacts all over the seafloor. Let's just say that, and you could see them for yourself. Now this one's calling Mu Lemuria over here, and giving Mu to basically Eastern Asia, including India. And we do know that New Zealand was part of Zealandia not too far ago, and much more land was up above seawater, sea level there. And so you could literally walk, from, say, maybe walk. Can you imagine being able to walk, hike from Japan all the way down to Australia? The Earth has gone through massive, massive changes. Now this one right here is showing Lemuria basically south of India. And this is Australia over here, and over here we have Africa. And this is interesting, especially when you look into the legends. The Atlantis of the Pacific, Kumari-Kandam. Kumari-Kandam. Interesting to trace the legends and the history of this Kumari-Kandam. And there's been a lot of people that have theorized these different lost continents. I feel like this came later in time. Not that the land wasn't there and then all of a sudden was and then was gone again. But the civilization, it feels like a separate civilization that came after Mu. More perhaps in line with right before our fall into the Kali Yuga is more what I was feeling. And it's interesting because there's stories that tell of an early Tamil dynasty. The Tamil people are fascinating in and of themselves too. And the Tamil people are right here. They're a Dravidian ethno-linguistic group who native speak the Tamil language. Trace their language mainly to India's southern state of Tamil Nadu, right? And also on Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, or Lanka, just Lanka. Sri designates the goddess energy. Lanka was an island nation in the the story of the Ramayana, and that's where the Asura captured Sita and took Sita, to be his queen, his wife, from Rama in that story over to Lanka. And, there was this gigantic war that happened with beings that look like Bigfoot, literally, Hanuman and his bunch fighting along with Rama and many other humans against the Asuras. And the Asuras I equate with the Anunnaki, or the draconian reptilian Anunnaki that came to the planet. Interesting when you look to the whole thing about this Aryan invasion that happened, and when you look to the caste system in India, when you look to the Aryan invasion that happened in India, it's northern India primarily. Southern India is distinct, and again, the Tamils are the indigenous people there. Who are they most related to? They're actually most related to people over in Ethiopia, which is, again, very, very interesting. And you got to wonder, we do know that Vishnu's city, Dwarka, is at the bottom of the ocean now off the Indian coast, and they found it. So, again, verifying the stories that we get from these ancient Hindu scriptures, which the difference with the ancient Hindu scriptures is they clearly tell you this is all extraterrestrials, guys. This is extraterrestrials. This has always been extraterrestrials and interdimensional beings. So, that's the thing that's different when you look at what do the Hindu scriptures tell you. They say, well, it's all extraterrestrials. There's good ones and there's bad ones. The good ones are the Devas. The bad ones, they're the Asuras. And it's interesting, too, when you look to Zoroastrianism, who is the chief deity in Zoroastrianism, which is Persian, which is modern-day Iran. It's Ahura Mazda, which Ahura and Asura, linguistically, they're coming from the same root. So what does it mean? It feels like the root, the core of the Anunnaki invasion happened in the Middle East, in Iraq, in all the way over to the Levant, again, Israel, over into Persia as well, and up into Cappadocia and Turkey. So this feels like when they came in, that's where they created their stronghold, and then they spread out. And yeah, absolutely, these were extraterrestrial wars. So it's interesting to see this, because when you look to this and the legends here, it comes up to Pandyan kings. Well, Y's are sometimes synonymous with V's in the Sanskrit and in the Tamil, translating it over. So Pandyan, it sounds like Pandavan to me, and what's significant about that? The Pandavas. The Pandavas is a group referring to the 5 legendary brothers, again, who are the central figures of the Hindu epic, the Mahabharata. So you have these guys who are of a kingly lineage that are fighting on the side of the Devas against those that are fighting on the side of the Asuras. And these were helped by Krishna. And what happens at the end of the war? We go into a Kali Yuga, and everything that was good is defeated. Even though they win the war, they did it by trickery and deceit, and they had, I shouldn't say that in total. There was a little trickery, there was a little deceit, there was arrogance. They were allowing themselves to be pulled down into that egoic state, which leads to lower vibrations and lower frequencies. And so when you look at this, really what this story is, It's the story of how we got to here. And this is the end of that kingdom, which perhaps also was the continent that we know of as Lemuria.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good, interesting information that it's out there, but you really have to do a lot of digging. And then even after you do the digging, you have to keep in mind, okay, where did this come from? Somebody allowed it through. So it's mostly building that discernment. It's about getting information from every possible source you can, and then some, and then pulling that information into yourself and deciphering it yourself. And Mike is really, really good at that, thank goodness. Because there's a lot out there. There's so much out there. And, that's the one common thing that they continually leave out as far as our control system is, the thing is that there's an understanding of different beings left the earth, and at some point they will come back. But because we're diving so into such a deep, dark age, well, they kind of have to go. If they want to survive, they cannot stay here. Frequency-wise, their bodies cannot handle it. They're of a different vibration. They're a different state. So preserving themselves while others come down here and do whatever we came here to do, which most of us came here for major expansion. And it is very, very difficult for people to accept, including myself sometimes, when certain things happen in my life and I'm told, well, you chose this. I mean, I'll be the first to admit sometimes that just really chaps my butt. I get so angry. It's like, oh my gosh, did it really have to be this bad? And I get so upset. But at the end of the day, when bad things do happen and you wait some time and you look back, and when you see the purpose for that bad thing, I look at all the things that happened to me. I would never look back and take them back, because then I wouldn't be able to reach the people that I reach. I wouldn't be able to connect with those that I can connect with. And that would be like saying, oh, take away my ability to connect with people. I don't want that. That's not what I want. And going through life and going through so many difficult things, if I would have said, okay, I want out of this now, and boom, I was out of it, well, then I would have lost everything. I wouldn't have what I have now. So no, I don't take it back. So at some level, yes, I did choose it. Is it consciously choosing? No. It's a different level. It's at a higher level, because the big me has a bigger understanding of what I am here to do.
Yeah, absolutely. As we can see, everybody has delved into this. This is actually in Russian. And then we have the whole concept, of the flat earth, which again, we don't get that the earth is flat, but we do get that it's much larger than what we're told. And if you view this as looking on the sphere from above, with this being our known world, this is a German map, by the way, an old German flat earth map. But again, turn it into a sphere, or actually it's not quite spherical yet, because again, the earth was recreated from the destruction of Tiamat. What you have is our known section of it over here. So here we are. We're not quite on the North Pole, but if you wanted to view it like we are, almost everything that we know is perhaps about the same as the amount of land proportionately, amount of space proportionately in the Arctic Circle or the Antarctic Circle, if you look at it from below. Although we're not on true north or true south, what you see a lot of other lands around us. So then, the idea comes up, well, I wonder if some of these other lands were just simply lands that we had access to when we were in a golden age or a silver age or even the bronze age, because again, we are in a quarantine situation, and we have been for the entirety of the Kali Yuga.
Well, yeah, I mean, rightfully so, because we are a mess. We're truly a mess. We're so toxified, and I'm not saying that it's our fault either. It's just what we have been exposed to. And those other beings know exactly how to keep us in quarantine and how to keep us exposed. But we're coming to a place now in our consciousness where we understand and we can take a greater responsibility of what we put in our bodies and what we watch on our tablets and on our phones and our TVs. And by taking that responsibility, we can change our own vibration. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, this is again, this is an old German map, and you see a little UFO here, and U-boats again, New Schwabenland. It's fascinating when you look at everything in reference to the inner Earth, and when are we really talking about inner Earth? Well, yeah, I do think inner Earth as well. Absolutely, there is more than one inner Earth civilization, and we all know of Agartha and Shambhala and Shangri-La. And I think again, this planet is so much more vast. There are so many various species that we would think have to be extraterrestrial. Ultimately, everything is of extraterrestrial origin. But at the same time, at what point do you say that I'm a naturalized citizen? That's open for debate, isn't it?
We are made up of so many different things. Our DNA, our skin, our bodies, our energy bodies. I mean, we literally come from the stars. So there is no pure anything. Not here, not right now.
No. And I think what we have, though, is we're at a key time right now, a very key time. Again, when you look at Thule and the legends of Thule, where did these, well, it depends on what term you want to use, but, the Germanic, the Norse, where did their gods come from? The North, right? But what if there are other lands above that area that again are either taken off the map or we're only seeing a small portion. What Cindy has gotten is that what we know of as Earth is only about 20 to 25% of what really is Earth.
She keeps herself safe, and that's how she does frequency-wise. So what I picked up a little while ago, is about 6 months ago, is everything outside of what we see outside of the quarantine it's not something that it's not a place that we can go to, not at our frequency now. So that's why we have this other little ship that they say is parked by the moon. They are there, and they are full of star families, and there are star families working with other people who came here with the intention to raise the frequency of Earth. And a lot of people are going through a lot of things, but that's how you rise up in frequency. If you go up, you have to realize that those things that no longer belong are going to fall away. And boy, sometimes that hurts. And people are seriously going through it, but their frequency is rising up, and they are getting better, and they are healing. And it's going to make a difference when it comes to us being able to have access to the other parts of the Earth.
Yeah, so it's a quarantine based on frequency. And to me, that makes perfect sense. As we raise up in frequency, we will have much more available to us. Again, I see our brother Keith in the house, as well as Terry. Hi, guys. Keith says, what about the supposed photos from space? Much of it is just, again, it's just like the moon landings. Yes, it's another distortion and a lie. They want to keep us divided. They want people to think, well, if the moon landings are fake, then space is fake. There is no such thing as anything else out there. There's only us right here. This is how they get us to go from one extreme to the other, which keeps us from being able to, come together, talk civilly, and really sense into things in a manner that we can be really productive. They want to keep us from being productive. They want to keep us just arguing. Space is a lie, space is fake. Nothing out there, to just the opposite. the reality, again, there, you could find some truths with the flat earthers, such as many will tell you, again, well, there's a lot more lands than what they tell us. Well, yeah, there is. They're right there. But at the same time, the measurements that they're using and saying, I don't see any sort of curvature, well, it's proportionate. Can you imagine if the Earth is much bigger than what we're saying, and literally more in line with maybe the size of Uranus or Neptune, it's going to take a while before you notice any sort of curvature because, again, it's just so much bigger. It's all relative. So this is how, again, they keep us arguing amongst each other while their agendas keep rolling forward. Yet the frequency is something that, as much as they try, they can't stop it in those that understand the bigger picture. When you look to Telos, as you see Mount Shasta in the back, Cindy and I had a wonderful trip to Shasta 5 years ago, I guess. And when we were there, we did have a connection come through with a being very much. It seemed like it was a Dhamma. We just adopted the name Adama, but Cindy can see inside, down inside in Shasta, there are beings from the Golden Age. Again, Mu is a Golden Age civilization. Mu is a Golden Age civilization. And let me do a recap when we talk about this. Mu is the original plan for the planet, so to speak. And the people of Mu were, I'll let Cindy tell you, but this is when we had a higher frequency, 5D. He has been here ever since then. He is still there. And, he basically, Adama and his people, they look very Pleiadian. These are Pleiadian-looking, typical Pleiadian-looking beings. Again, that is what our perception is, but the reality is, there's many people that would call the Pleiades home now. Again, it's home after the Lyran Wars, as it's one of the areas that the human species and other species migrated to. But there are Pleiadian beings that are, not necessarily 8 feet tall and blonde with blue eyed.
Mm-hmm. It was really an interesting travel into Mount Shasta, and they showed me a lot of things. So it's like inner earth. It's a different place. It's a different type of existence where they can exist and having access to what I call their star family, even though they are from inner earth, they can still reach and talk to their star family through the pineal gland, through meditation. So if you're one that feels like you have a connection to Shasta, then there's probably part of your star family in there helping you in some way, shape, or form through meditation, through connection. So some of these thoughts or some of these epiphanies are probably coming from your star family, and they showed me that there's several different kinds of beings in there, and that is their purpose right now. They cannot come out here right now into this 3D realm because, there's a vibration discrepancy. Their bodies cannot handle it. Their minds cannot handle it. They have to remain in inner earth to do the work that they're doing, but also very important to let you guys know that you're not alone. Your star family from either above or below, they are contacting you. They are working with you. Never, ever, ever believe that you are alone. Some people have several different types of beings as their star family. It's not just one lineage. They've come here to take all the different aspects of themselves, and yes, including reptilian type beings who are wanting to do better, who are wanting to change the vibration or the consciousness of their species. They have come here too to help and make things better and work through certain people.
Yes, so Telos is a very real thing, and it is occupied by, again, beings that you might say are the original humans in so many ways. There are beings that were living in the water, for instance, that were some of the originals that were here. And this is where we get that whole idea of, again, mermaids and mermen. When you look to Mu, again, Mu was fifth density. It was golden age into silver age. When you look at Atlantis, I feel still that's more of silver and bronze. And Atlantis is where a lot of the problems really started. But again, what Cindy got was that Tartaria was actually concurrent with Atlantis. If you have ever, you probably have, a lot of you guys watched Robert Sefer, Atlantean Gardens. And, if you haven't, you're probably familiar with what's called the Sea Peoples. There is this big group of beings that are just recognized as the Sea Peoples by history. And many people have picked up that they are literally survivors of Atlantis. Again, Atlantis was a global civilization, as was Mu. Tartaria was, I do think Tartaria spread over into North America as well. And, I could have Cindy pick up on any more. Okay. And no new information at this point. It's tough for her to pick up on new stuff when we have all the technology going. She needs peace and quiet and a meditative state. But, again, I do think that these different civilizations, some were concurrent with each other and going on in just different portions of the planet, or at least the planet that we know, and fell to slightly different fates at different times, but again we're interacting with each other. And again, that Atlantean civilization is the one in which those beings came from Mars and integrated with after Mars had its big cataclysm. And then the Atlantean ways started to deteriorate. And that was, again, a huge part of the cataclysm was opening up that doorway to the lower astral, and so many of these draconian dark reptilian beings coming on through. Again, the Nagas, which also do currently live. There are Nagas inside the earth. They're very different than the Draco. Very, very different than Draco.
Way different. They're more of a being to be respected and not toyed with. They're extremely intelligent. They're very powerful. They generally have no ill will or bring any harm. It's just you have a very respectful type of energy toward them, and they towards you. It's like they understand their power, so they know when you have that kind of power, you have a heavy responsibility. And one thing that is really fun when we're talking about star families and star systems is like, what are people's, when you come into this earth, according to your chart, what is your star system in this lifetime? And I do believe they can be different in other lifetimes. And if you look at someone's chart and you look at their nakshatra, well, you can see what star system are they made up of in this life. And I think that's just a lot of fun to learn these things. I mean, you can be made up of several, but which one is assisting you in this life?
Absolutely. So, yeah, I made a pumpkin pie last week, I think. And then today I'm going to make a pumpkin souffle for my lovely wife, and I just love to cook. Yeah, I do love to cook. And these guys, they love to eat, just like Rama and Sita love to eat.
These guys are so cute, and those look so good. Oh my gosh, wouldn't it be cute to have little cows like that?
Yes, absolutely. So, keep your frequency high. I wouldn't recommend anything more than simply doing your very, very best to maintain a daily, every single day, spiritual practice and prioritize it. Mind, body, breath, whatever suits you the best. I do think that mantras, the Sanskrit mantras, are going again back out of the Kali Yuga into something that was practiced in the Bronze Age, and they hold much higher frequency than the Earth earthly language of money, the English language, that we have now, which is full of things like cursive writing and spelling and script and good mornings and all that. This is what we were brought up with, but it's again part of the Kali Yuga. It's part of the darkness. So the Sanskrit is designed in such a way to open chakras, and the chakras are interdimensional portals for your consciousness to transverse. And if you are having a hard time remembering your dreams, again, I do think mind, body, breath practice like Qigong or yoga can absolutely help. I think the mantras are just so amazingly powerful. Most people don't really recognize it.
Right. And, if you're having trouble with no sun, make sure you're taking in your magnesium and your vitamin Ds and your B vitamins, you guys. It really helps the body stay up there, because we deal with that here too in this house when the sun is going down. I mean, it can have tough days when we don't have the sun, but there's also happy lights you can get. So just get all the things and do all the things, and it'll help you feel better. And boy, that pumpkin pie looks good with whipped cream.
It sure does. As always, guys, thank you for your support. Make sure you subscribe to all 3 channels, Hearts Home too.